Hi everyone, welcome back to Sunday Scaries with Bitcoin, part 2. So this is something we'll do weekly on Sundays. If you didn't tune in for the last one, I'll cover a little bit of a recap real quick, but it was pretty exciting, and today we're going to be talking about whether Bitcoin could be hitting that 100K this week. I think it's definitely a possibility. I'm not fully sold on it, but we'll see. We'll talk through some things. Um, yeah, please, give me some comments down below, just so I can know how this is impacting viewers and if you're really enjoying the content. If you need me to slow down, if you need different mic volumes, if you need different topics. Yeah, happy to kind of grow and change as we go. But I hope you're enjoying, and we'll get into the weekly Sunday scaries. So if you missed last time, quick kind of recap is Bitcoin tends to kind of make a pretty strong move after the weekly close on Sunday evenings, and usually it looks somewhere around 1.2 to 1.5% pretty strong move um, heading into Monday morning, and then it can maintain that move through the week and kind of have it set the tone, or it can potentially reverse and those types of things too. Unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily predict the whole week ahead. So last week we were talking about this wedge pattern that was forming on Sunday evening. You can see like we were talking right around here maybe, and it was in this wedge, and we kind of talked about whether it was going to break up or down, and we got we kind of got a fake out, but in the end, over the course of Sunday evening into early Monday morning is when we got that breakout out of the wedge. And you saw a pretty strong move here from, I can do a little measure tool, from this low up to this high. It was, almost a 4% move um, over that evening from the close. So yeah, pretty strong move there. Pretty volatile, and you can see it did set the tone for the week. So we broke out of that wedge, and then we really were higher lows and higher highs until all the way up here at 99K, almost 100K. So pretty cool, pretty strong week. Doing some interesting things to the altcoin market, which we'll talk about. But let's talk about just Bitcoin for now for this Sunday scary and the week ahead. I think we've kind of once again got a little bit of a wedge pattern. Um, we've got some pretty strong resistance that just got tested again today, or pretty strong support that just got tested again today, right at like 95.5 to 96K. And that's held twice. So seems to be the floor for now. And then you've kind of got this, we set this high over here up at right around 100K. We didn't quite get there. And since then, we've kind of been having lower highs and consolidating, which again, I really don't think is a bearish sign. I think consolidation is key and honestly something I would really want to see. And this probably going to mean that the move, hopefully when the move above 100K comes, it'll be sustainable rather than just a quick spike and then back down. So I don't mind this consolidation. We're kind of in this range. We haven't really seen a move yet. I think, I think it could go either way. We're obviously closer to the upper trend line right now. We just hit it right back, a few. Oh, this is interesting. This is on UTC time. So you'll notice it's already saying we're in Monday morning. But yeah, regardless on what time frame you're looking at, the close is right around, here. And so it hasn't fully picked a direction yet. It could potentially be this rejection move. If we saw something similar to last week where we hit the bottom trend line right around close and then we rocketed through and out of the trend on the other side. So that in reverse would look like we got a 4% move, or 385, I think is what it was, right down to a little below 95K, 94.5. Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I think, um, I think we'd have to break through that floor. But again, that floor has only been around for a few days, so it's not like the craziest thing to break it. I think the bigger thing to kind of look at is where would it head next? And I think you're looking at that, that prior kind of high that then here when the breakout happened, it retested to really claim and then it rocketed higher. So I think that's probably your next strong support at around 93.4. And I think that would be great for the market, honestly. If it could get a little pullback here and kind of consolidate between 93 and 98 this week, I think that could be really healthy for the market. If it just goes and decides to break out, that's totally fair too. We can look at it on the other side. 4% from here. We're looking at. Oh, it was too exciting. It broke my computer. Just to talk as I wait for a second, the 100K milestone, guys, we've talked about being a big deal, and it really is. I think it's just a huge headline, and it has the potential to really kickstart some major retail interest. And surprisingly, right now, like if you look at social risk and those types of metrics, we're really not that high. We're nowhere near like blow off tops and stuff. And that makes sense because we've got arguably another year until usually the 4-year cycle would be topping out. But it is kind of crazy to think about that during the mania phases of like, oh, wow, the retail is not necessarily even here yet in mass. 4% from here or 3.85 would put us at about 101.5. So yeah, could be the move. Again, I think that's probably less likely. I think you're at least going to find some short-term resistance at 100K. Bounce around for a little bit and then maybe break out for a more consistent move. But yeah, that's kind of the lookout we're looking at. I think I think it's going to be interesting to watch. I think either way. So let's go talk about ETH BTC because this is my favorite. So you can see this is kind of the last. Yeah, this is the last week here. It's been pretty volatile. Like, we had this high at 355 and then a strong move down all the way to 318. Which if you take a measured move, that right there is a 10.35% move. Yeah, which is pretty strong. I mean, that means that it bled 10% against Bitcoin in a few days without even taking into consideration pullbacks and stuff. And that was on a Bitcoin pump. And then kind of the second half of the week, we got this pretty strong spike out of it back up to almost where we started. And so I think you're seeing, honestly, I think it's more of a dead cat bounce. I don't think we've really broken this falling pattern. If you zoom out to like 3 months, it's pretty clear of just how aggressively we've been moving down. Like these spikes don't look so massive when you look at it on the scale of us being up at almost at above 0.04 just a few weeks ago. But yeah, so I think with this chart, you're gonna probably continue to see some volatility. I think hopefully we get some more bleeds. I think at least we'll retest these lows. I think visiting 0315 would be pretty likely, and 03 I think could happen. And again, I think those would be good buying opportunities. It's interesting because it is really fluctuating. It seems to me like when Bitcoin enters price discovery, initially ETH BTC is bleeding because if Ethereum's not keeping up. But then as Bitcoin starts to chill out in an area of new price discovery, like around, from 95 to 98 that we've been in, Ethereum has started to gain. And then kind of as those consolidation becomes longer, like over 4 days, over a week, it's almost like Ethereum starts to get bored. It's like, wow, we're not moving enough. And it starts to sell off again against Bitcoin. So I think that's a possibility this week. I think there's some interesting. I mean, technically, this was a lower high, so we haven't kind of broken this one. Really, though, there's a lot of. I mean, you can see there's a good amount of kind of consolidation support in between these two levels, and so we're kind of in that range. And I think you really need to break this lower bound at like technically the lower end of it is 336 um, to go revisit lows. So look for that. I think unless you break out above 356, you could still potentially be in the range, but just some blow up tops. So yeah, look for above 356 or below 336, and I think that'll give you an idea of where the market's headed. This is a short week coming up, and so I'm obviously looking to kind of get some big buys on Ethereum in before Thanksgiving and those close days. So I honestly would love a little bit of a breakdown in Bitcoin back to like 93, and hopefully altcoins bleed for a little bit, and maybe we can even find new lows on this chart and find some good buying opportunities. I think, I still think there's a chance ETHUSD breaks below 3,000, like we've been talking about, but so far that support has proved really strong. Um, so I can show you over the last month here. Yeah, so you can see like we tested 3,000 quite a lot, and it kind of oftentimes wouldn't even make it down there. A few times it wicked down there, but like really it's been maintaining it quite well. And now we just broke out of 3,200, which was resistance. So it's kind of bullish. I think obviously it's going to depend more on Ethereum price or on Bitcoin price and where it leads it. For now on the USD pair, but I think unless we're back below 3,200, I think it's probably safe to say stop looking for 3,000, and I'll start buying more around our 3,200 floor for now, in order to not miss potentially a big breakout up above, 3,500. Something I did want to point out on the larger chart, it's felt pretty strong here this last week, but if I zoom out, we really are still looking at kind of a pretty strong lower high structure, that Bitcoin broke, Ethereum still hasn't broken it, and so that's just something I want to point out. It can feel shocking, but this goes all the way back to March when we started it, and we have had wicks above it, but you can see no weekly closes above it this whole time, and it now is not an exception, right? It put in the weekly close right at the trend line or below it. We got some wicks above it, but for now it's not broken. So I think if you get Bitcoin above 100K, this is going to break. But if it consolidates and pulls back for a little while, I think we're going to maintain this lower high structure a little bit longer. So again, it could break any day, so really be prepared. I'm loading up on Ethereum, and yeah, that's kind of what you need to know headed into the week, guys. We could potentially just other news on the markets. There was some pretty major Israel strikes on Lebanon today. That could potentially have some influences. Oil hasn't moved too much based on it, which I was kind of surprised about. Gold is actually dropping off a little bit, which is a little bit surprising. Usually it goes up on war tensions, and same with the dollar. So, yeah, we're really seeing some interesting kind of market mechanics here, and I don't think it's quite clear how it's all going to play out yet. The 10-year and the 3-month are still kind of inverting, uninverting, back and forth, and that's another kind of interesting thing. You can see this chart. We got this. Should be able to see. Yeah, so you can see we uninverted back here. Oh no, we uninverted. We did just uninvert recently. This chart's not detailed enough right now. It can't give me a 5-day because it's bonds. But yeah, so we've uninverted. We've gone up to like maybe 10 basis points uninverted. Now we're 20 inverted again. So it just seems like the market's not quite ready to choose a full direction on that. I do think that uninversion needs to happen before we can get a big bull market. I think you need to see that before QE. I also think we're getting close to our next labor data, so I think that's going to really impact markets if it's negative. And so I think as we go into that, markets are going to start to kind of just like be a little bit reserved and slower, waiting for those results. We got Nvidia last week. It wasn't it. It was still great earnings, but frankly, didn't blow Wall Street's expectations out of the water, and so a lot of the calls above 150 kind of expired worthless, and we're down into the 140s. I think markets overall look pretty strong to me. But yeah, we'll just have to see. I'm excited to kind of watch Bitcoin and see what direction it's going to choose out of this week. We'll know, likely in the next 12 hours, kind of what it's looking at. And again, I think if we break this trend line right around 98 right now, yeah, start looking for at least tests of 100. I don't think it's just going to go straight through like a knife through butter, but I think it will start hitting that level as resistance to start weakening it. So yeah, we will keep an eye on it. I will keep you guys posted, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving week. I'll do some more videos as we get closer here, but let's see if we can see 100K Bitcoin this week. That would be pretty amazing. All right, cheers.